Incredible moment revealed. Wealthy CEO's son 10 discovers the touching truth about sisterhood. Ethan stood in his sprawling mansion, marble floors shining under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers. His room was filled with the latest toys, gadgets, and games money could buy. Yet as the summer sun poured in, something felt off. He looked out at his perfect suburban neighborhood, where everything seemed immaculate. He had everything, yet his heart ached with a profound emptiness he couldn't quite explain. This summer, a school project required him to engage in community service. Reluctantly, Ethan found himself at the local shelter run by Mr. Herrera, a grizzled veteran with kind eyes. That's where he met Maya. Her laughter rang like music against the backdrop of poverty. Her world was vastly different from his. While his parents were busy with their high-profile careers, Maya dreamed of college, of a better life. She worked hard, a bright spark in the dim light of this shelter. As they cleaned and served meals, Ethan felt an awakening. When Maya shared stories of her life, he listened intently, her struggles and hopes resonating within him. He knew about his father's wealth, but had never realized the value of kindness. He started to see the beauty behind their tough realities, which stole his breath away and stirred unfamiliar feelings in his chest. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One day, Ethan overheard his parents talking about an upcoming gala. They were dismissive, expressing disdain for the very community that had helped them build their fortunes. Their words struck Ethan like a sharp blow. He felt torn between the world of privilege that defined him and the screeching honesty he discovered through Maya. As days passed, their conversations grew deeper. Maya sparked something in him, a challenge to question success and wealth. Would he side with his parents or with the one who showed him the heart of true friendship? The gala night arrived, a dazzling display of affluence. Ethan made a bold decision, inviting Maya as his guest. When they walked in, he felt the tension. His parents and their elite friends filled the banquet hall, their laughter echoing like a mocking symphony. And there, amidst the glamour, Maya shone brightly, but her presence was met with thinly veiled judgment. Ethan's chest tightened as he sat between his friend and his parents. Suddenly he couldn't take it anymore. He stood up, voice rising above the clinking glasses and chatter, confronting the inequalities swirling around them. "This isn't right," his words echoed, quieting the room. People gasped, whispers flying as he faced the disdain. In that moment he felt liberated, yet terrified, staring into Maya's eyes and seeing both pride and worry. With the cacophony of privileged laughter fading into a hushed silence, Ethan's heart raced. Would he continue to uphold the barriers that divided them, or would he take a stand for what truly mattered? His life had irrevocably changed, and now he had to choose, to embrace justice and sisterhood or retreat back to his gilded cage. Ethan stood there, frozen in that moment, his heart pounding in his chest. Those gazes, a mixture of surprise, disdain, and curiosity, bore down on him like the weight of 1,000 expectations. He felt the pull of his parents, their whispers creeping into his mind, reminding him what was proper, what was expected. Yet the warmth of Maya's presence was a lifeline. He needed her strength to fill the void he felt. Maya had always inspired him, her passion infectious. As he searched her eyes, he saw a reflection of courage that ignited a fire within him. He took a deep breath, feeling raw, vulnerable but somehow free. So many tears had been shed in that shelter, and so many stories shared that night. The faceless struggle of others had become a part of him, and he couldn't pretend anymore. "You know what the difference is between us?" he called out to the crowd, a boldness surging through his veins. "I tell her she matters, that her dreams deserve to be real, while you—" He looked around, his gaze piercing through the hushed crowd. "You just look down because it makes you feel bigger." A ripple of gasps spread through the room. Ethan felt a wave of conflicting emotions crash over him. He could feel his parents' disdain radiating like heat off asphalt, but he stood firm. The silence was deafening, punctuated only by an occasional clink of glasses as conversations faltered. "Ethan," he heard his father's voice, a mixture of warning and disbelief. But Maya squeezed his hand, and suddenly the walls surrounding him crumbled, revealing something he didn't know he was missing. "Speak from your heart, Ethan," she whispered, and he could hear the urgency in her words. It propelled him forward. "I don't want to live in a world where kindness is scorned," he said, his voice rising. "I want to be friends with someone like Maya, someone who works hard just to put a roof over her family's head. You have all this," he gestured to the opulence around them, "but what does it really mean if you don't share it? Love, friendship, the connections that bind us?" His words broke through the quiet, as those around him began to stir, shifting in their chairs. The faces of his parents tightened in alarm, but laughter and murmurs soon rippled from other guests. He caught a glimpse of Mr. Herrera standing at the corner, pride illuminating his face. Ethan turned back to Maya, her eyes wide with surprise. "I mean it. They can keep their money. We can change things together," he insisted. This wasn't just a reckless outburst, it was a declaration. And for the first time, he felt excitement, hope surging in place of fear. The evening took on a different hue. More guests approached them, some eager to hear his perspective, others still trying to grasp what had just happened. Among the whispers, he sensed a shift. Challenging the status quo was not what was expected, but in that moment, it felt exhilarating. But as the mingling continued, he saw his parents whispering. Their backs turned to him, plotting a response. Anxiety gripped him. Would they punish him for standing up? Would they take Maya from him? Dark clouds of fear loomed. Still, he held tightly to Maya's hand, feeling her warmth infuse him with strength. "No matter what happens, we keep this fight alive," he promised quietly, as they turned to face the skeptical audience once more. They stood together side by side, ready for whatever storm might come next. But as the tension hung heavy in the air, questions lingered. What consequences would they face? Would they be able to break through the walls of wealth and privilege that surrounded them? And most importantly, would their budding friendship withstand the glare and scrutiny of a world that valued status over humanity? Ethan's heart thundered in his chest as he faced the crowd, a mix of curiosity and tension cutting through the air like a blade. The chatter softened, uncertain eyes danced between him and Maya, and he felt a swell of courage rise within him. He knew this moment could change everything. "Why is being compassionate so shocking?" he continued, his voice steadying. "Isn't that what we're supposed to do, help each other?" It felt surreal, sharing these thoughts aloud, yet here he was, standing on the precipice of something greater. A woman near the back raised her glass. "Here, here," she shouted, surprising everyone. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Ethan's spirits lifted at the sound, grounding him further in this bold action. Maya smiled up at him, her eyes twinkling with gratitude. She wasn't just a friend, she was his anchor. But in that moment, he noticed more faces shifting too, people nodding in agreement, their skepticism melting into curiosity. Yet beyond the murmur of newfound voices, he could still sense his parents' stony irritation. He dared to glance toward them, finding his father's face marred with disbelief, while his mother wore an expression that screamed disappointment. Anxiety knotted his stomach, but he pressed on. "Look around you," he urged. "Are we really so different? Does my friendship with Maya make you uncomfortable? She deserves to be treated with respect, just like any of us." He could see some guests shifting uncomfortably, caught in a web of emotions that twisted through the air. "Raising voices, Ethan? Such a disgrace," his father snapped, the words laced with venom. It felt like a slap, the sting echoing in Ethan's chest. Maya's hand tightened in his, and she looked up, her expression resolute. "Standing up for what's right isn't a disgrace, it's honor," she declared, her tone fierce. The change in her voice sent a shiver through the crowd. He could feel them moving closer now, some hearts resonating with their cause. For a brief moment, a shift happened. A grounded father of four stepped forward, thoughtfully scratching his beard. "Kids have the strongest views. Sometimes they see things we don't," he said, a hint of reflection in his voice. Maybe we're all too caught up in our lives to see the bigger picture. His honesty resonated like a chord struck from a well-tuned guitar. Nods from other guests erupted as they began to murmur appreciatively. Hope blossomed in Ethan's chest. Maybe their voices could be louder than the tide of wealth and privilege threatening to swallow him whole. But then, just as quickly, Ethan sensed a friction. The same man who validated their words a moment ago now eyed him with skepticism. Even if you believe in this, Ethan, look where you are. You think you can change how things work? No, Ethan replied, confidence simmering in his voice. But I can try. And trying is better than accepting things as they are. Isn't that the spirit of life? Laughter erupted, a release that felt electric, but it wasn't enough to lift the ominous heaviness hanging from his parents. They were cornered now, trapped between societal norms and the spurring voices of change. Yet he knew a storm was brewing. As the evening progressed, their dialogue grew charged. The air thickened with ideas, boldness filling the room with intangible possibilities. But anxiety still twisted in Ethan's gut. Would this newfound camaraderie last? And how would his parents react when the night finally closed? With these thoughts swirling, he looked down at Maya. The fight was real, but so were the consequences. They were stepping into a battle neither of them fully understood, but with a loyalty that made it seem conquerable. And just when he thought he could breathe again, he caught sight of his father moving toward them, eyes sharp and intent. The air crackled with electric anticipation. What would he say? Would he accept Ethan's passion, or would he tear down the bridge they built? Ethan stood there, heart racing against the tide of uncertainty rushing forward. Ethan's breath hitched in his throat as his father approached, an imposing figure amid the soft glow of the chandeliers. The air felt heavier, charged with the weight of expectations and unspoken tension. He shifted on his feet, willing himself to stay grounded. "Ethan," his father began, his voice low but booming. "What on earth were you thinking? This isn't the time or place for your little rebellion." There was no hiding the disdain in his tone, and it felt like a punch to the gut. Maya squeezed Ethan's hand, her warmth pushing back against his father's cold words. "But it is the place to stand for what's right," she said, voice unwavering. "We're not rebelling. We're calling for a conversation." "Enough," his father snapped, eyeing her like she was a threatening shadow. "You don't know what you're talking about." His icy gaze darted back to Ethan. "And you? What do you know of these people? You have what they want, and you dare to challenge them." Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. Did he have what they wanted? Wealth? Status? He gritted his teeth, remembering Maya's words. "I only know what's fair. You can't expect people to stay silent just because they have different skin or come from different backgrounds." The quiet murmurs morphed into a roar of whispers around him, heads turning in curiosity and unease. All at once the atmosphere shifted. The guests, once merely observers, were now engaged, leaning closer, ears attuned to the unfolding confrontation. His father's face twisted, a blend of rage and disbelief. "You think you have the solutions, do you? This is how the world works. Those who belong thrive, and you think standing up for a girl who doesn't fit in will change that?" The air was thick with tension, but Ethan's heart swelled with conviction. "You taught me courage once, Dad. Why does it only apply to the people at the top?" Gasps rippled through the audience. For a heartbeat, Ethan's father hesitated, the flicker of uncertainty dancing across his stoic facade. But the flicker was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced with anger. "Don't you dare speak to me like that." In that moment, Ethan glimpsed the transformation he was calling for. This wasn't just about him and Maya. This was about confronting generations of belief, about tearing down the walls that shielded those at the top from the voices of the unseen. The shame of wealth had become an unbearable weight on his shoulders. "Why can't you see it?" Ethan pressed, feeling the small victories around him. "If we stop pretending everything is perfect, maybe we can actually do something. Isn't that worth fighting for?" His father's expression morphed, a blend of shock and a flash of something softer. The flicker of realization, perhaps. But it was gone again just as quickly. "This isn't a game, Ethan. You don't know what you're asking for." "Not really." Ethan took a step forward. "No, I don't. But neither do you, not anymore. There's so much at stake. We can't turn a blind eye to this. The crowd's energy crackled. They were with him, many exchanging looks of empathy, the silence not a void, but a burgeoning connection waiting to transform into action. Maya stepped beside him, her presence fortifying him. We can find better ways to live together. You just have to choose to see it. Before his father could respond, Ethan caught sight of something in the audience. A tear glistened on a woman's cheek. The moment felt profound, pivotal. As the tension rippled outward, a new voice called from the back, stronger, calling for unity, urging action. They're right. We need to change how we think. Ethan felt his heart race at the realization of what they'd started. He'd ignited something deeper than he anticipated. But what would their parents choose? Would this ripple fade, or would it flood through their lives, forcing them to reckon with uncomfortable truths? Ethan's eyes locked with Maya's. They were standing at the edge of something gigantic, but could they truly turn the tide? All around them, the air charged with possibility. And just as his father's mouth opened, something trembled inside Ethan, a whisper that cheered for change. What if this wasn't just a moment? What if this was a movement? Could they hold the weight of that responsibility? Ethan's heart raced, the pulse of possibility thrumming in his chest. The crowd hung on the brink of something monumental, as if the air itself was charged with electric hope. This was more than just a confrontation with his father. It felt like a turn in the tide, a chance to rewrite the stories they had all been living. He glanced at Maya, her eyes shining with fierce determination. They were united, the weight of their shared dream pressing against the world's indifference. "We have to show them," he whispered, half to himself. "Show them they can change." His father stood frozen, the storm in his eyes a mix of disbelief and dawning realization. But before the silence could settle too deeply, a tall man with a worn cap stepped forward from the back of the audience. "Change isn't easy," he spoke, his voice rough but steady. "It takes grit, and sometimes it takes losing what we thought we'd never give up." Ethan could feel the room shift again, the gaze of the crowd now landing on this new voice. People were leaning in closer, hungry for more than just words. They were hungry for truth. "I've lost everything," the man continued, "yet here I stand. Because the fight for something greater, something fairer, is worth it. We don't have to accept what's given to us. We can demand more." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. This man, likely from a world so removed from his father's, yet they all shared a common pain, a yearning for better. The old script of silence began to crack, revealing flecks of possibility beneath. His father's jaw tightened. "And what do you suggest we do?" he challenged, a note of desperation cracking through his bravado. "You want us to just throw everything away?" "Yes!" someone in the crowd shouted back, the passion rolling forward like waves. "Yes, we want to build a future where everyone has a voice, where no one has to stand alone." With that, the audience erupted in murmurs, expressions transforming from confusion to understanding. Suddenly, it felt like a storm ready to break. They weren't just outsiders looking in, they were participants in a larger quest for justice, one that pressed against being silenced by wealth or status or old beliefs. Ethan felt Maya's hand clasped tighter around his. "You were right," she said quietly. "They're ready to talk, to change this from a conversation into action." But can we keep them together? Ethan wondered aloud. Can this moment grow into real change? His heart beat faster at the thought. He didn't want this to be another fleeting moment of inspiration. He craved something far grander. "Everyone deserves to feel seen," Maya replied with conviction. "Let's keep pushing, keep talking. We can't let these voices fade away." His father took a deep breath, the storm in his expression shifting. Was it fear, vulnerability, or something else entirely? "You really believe this can change the world?" he finally said, incredulity mingling with a hint of something softer. Ethan stepped forward once more, the vulnerability of the moment sending sparks through his determination. "Yeah, I do. I've seen it in her," he said, motioning toward Maya. "In all of us. We need to start somewhere. This can't just be a family argument. It's a start to something greater." The crowd was hanging on every word, the energy building, as another voice called out from the back. "Together, we can be stronger. We have to keep pushing." Ethan's pulse quickened with exhilaration. He felt like they were riding the crest of a wave, the raw energy around them amplifying his resolve. This was more than a stand against his father. It was a call for everyone to rise up. But would his father stand with him? Could he step into a world painted in hues of empathy instead of privilege? As Ethan's eyes locked on his father's, the question lingered in the air, heavy with promise and the weight of history. The moment felt like a loaded gun about to fire. Would this stand be the beginning of a new confrontation, or the start of a revolution? Ethan could see the struggle etched on his father's face. There was a flicker of something. Was it regret? Uncertainty? The crowd around them was pulsing with energy, caught in the tides of change, yet here stood his father, an island of old beliefs. "Dad?" Ethan's voice wavered, the weight of the moment pressing down hard. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's about the future, don't you see?" He searched his father's eyes for some sign of acknowledgement, some glimmer of understanding that they could begin anew. But his father remained silent, the silence growing thicker, almost suffocating. It was as if Ethan had hurled a stone into a deep lake, the ripples barely disturbing the surface of his father's stoic demeanor. Maya leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. "Just give him time," she urged softly. Before Ethan could speak again, a woman with fierce, determined eyes stepped forward. "We all have stories," she began, her voice rising above the whispers. "Stories of loss, of courage, of triumph. But together, we can rewrite these stories. Together, we can make our voices loud enough for the world to hear." The woman's words rippled through the crowd, igniting more murmurs, more agreements. Just then, another voice broke through. A young man, perhaps only a few years older than Ethan. "What if we organize? What if we create our own space where people feel like they matter?" Ethan felt a spark of hope in the air. "A community," he muttered to Maya, excitement bubbling up. They could build something real, something that echoed with the voices of all those who had been ignored. "Exactly," Maya chimed in, her eyes wide with inspiration. "We need to make sure every voice is heard, from the richest to the poorest. Start local, then expand. Imagine the possibilities." As more voices joined in, proposing ideas and pushing for plans, Ethan's father shifted uncomfortably, the tension in his shoulders visible. It was clear that this was not the conversation he had anticipated. "Enough!" his father suddenly shouted, his voice booming above the growing chaos. The crowd quieted, eyes darting between father and son. "You think change comes easy? You think it's a game? I've worked my entire life to build something solid. You want me to tear it down?" Ethan's heart sank, the air heavy with his father's challenge. The crowd held its breath. "It's not about tearing it down, Dad," Ethan replied, his voice stronger now. "It's about building it up for everyone." For a heartbeat, the world seemed to pause. Ethan's gaze pierced deep through the surface of his father's steely facade. The moment expanded, revealing hidden truths both had kept buried for too long. And then, as if the walls were cracking in slow motion, someone shouted, "Let him speak." Ethan's father blinked, caught off guard as people began chanting for him to address them. It was louder, a powerful current that drew him in. For the first time, he seemed less a figure of authority and more a member of the crowd, on the brink of something new. "Please," Maya whispered to Ethan, her grip tightening. "He has to meet us where we are." The words burned in the air, a plea and a truth. Would his father finally say what needed to be said? Would this moment bring him closer to his son, bridging the gap forged by years of misunderstandings? Ethan inhaled deeply, feeling a surge of hope mixed with anxiety. With the crowd leaning in, anticipation electric, everything rested on his father's reply. Would he take that first step into the unknown, or retreat back into the shadows of his past? Ethan's heart raced as he watched his father grapple with the weight of the crowd's expectations. The voices calling for him to speak grew louder, insisting on some kind of acknowledgement. It was as if the air itself crackled with energy, that collective hope pressing against the man's fortress of silence. Finally, the lines on Ethan's father's face softened just a touch. He looked out over the crowd, scanning faces that mirrored both hope and desperation. For a fleeting second, Ethan thought he saw the glimmer of recognition, a crack in the hard exterior that had defined his father for so long. But then just as quickly the wall reassembled. "You don't understand," his father replied, voice steady but laced with tension. "Building something takes discipline, sacrifice. You think I can just turn that all over? You think it's easy?" Ethan winced at the sharpness in his father's tone. "No, Dad, I don't think it's easy. But it doesn't have to be sacrifice for some and prosperity for others. We can change that. Together." The crowd shifted restlessly. They were thirsty for a breakthrough, a movement, or some small indication that this man, their pillar of strength, might finally bend. A flicker of emotion crossed his father's face, but it was there and gone so fast, leaving Ethan feeling more desperate than before. "You think you can rewrite history?" his father said, almost to himself. "You think we can erase the mistakes, the struggles?" Ethan felt a fire ignite in his chest. "We can't erase them, Dad, but we can learn from them. We can create something different." The silence stretched again between them, heavy and painful. Then, as if time had rewound, a younger version of his father flickered in Ethan's mind. The man who had once filled his days with laughter, who shared adventures and dreams beneath starry skies. A man who had seemed to embody hope and vision, a vision that had somehow dimmed over the years. "Remember when you talked about how important it was for us to make our own mark? We can't keep living in the shadows of what came before. You said that once." Ethan's voice broke slightly, feeling the weight of nostalgia press down on him. Maya squeezed his arm, encouraging him. The crowd shifted again, murmurs of agreement rippling through the air. And for the first time, they were no longer just spectators. They were part of the unfolding story. They looked to his father, anticipation building, waiting to see if he would step into the light with them. Ethan's father took a shaky breath. It might have been a moment of recognition, but it trembled on a knife edge of uncertainty. "If I say I support this, if I say I'm willing to listen..." His voice trailed off, uncertainty creeping back in. "You have to find that voice, Dad," Ethan urged, backing him into a corner of vulnerability that felt both terrifying and liberating. "Let it out. Just for once. Let us hear the truth." The air was electric with possibility, and Ethan could feel the emotions swirling, fear, hope, and a longing for connection. His father stood there, facing the crowd and his son. Would he risk the status quo for something new? As the moment stretched on, those gathered leaned in, hearts clamoring for change. Ethan knew the answer could reshape everything they had fought for. Then, without warning, a loud crash echoed from the back of the crowd. Gasps went up as people turned, confused and startled. In that instant, all eyes shifted, including Ethan's father's. A security team rushed forward, and the murmurs rose like a tide of anxiety. Ethan's stomach churned. What had just emerged from the chaos? What could possibly derail such a crucial moment? His father's attention was drawn away, but Ethan felt the gravity of the moment shift. Would they lose the chance to move forward, or could this unexpected turn somehow grant them new strength? Questions whirled in his mind as he turned back to the unfolding scene, uncertainty clawing at him. What would the crash reveal? And could it bring about the change they so desperately sought? Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as he shifted his gaze to the unfolding chaos. The murmurs grew louder, a rolling wave of anxiety crashing through the crowd. He could see the security personnel pushing through, faces tense and alert. Then came the unmistakable sound of a child's voice, sharp and panicked. "Dad!" "Wait!" A small figure pushed between the legs of the crowd, desperately trying to reach someone important. Ethan squinted, recognizing the boy as the young son of a prominent businessman he had often talked to at community events. He was only 10, but there was something powerful about his determined stride. The boy looked up, tears streaming down his cheeks, his face flushed with urgency. Ethan's father turned, caught off guard by the interruption. The tension that had gripped him seemed momentarily broken. "Max, what are you doing here?" he asked, incredulity tinged with concern. I saw the news." Max breathed heavily, his little hands balled into fists. "They said you're not going to listen to anyone anymore, and you can't. You got to talk. People are waiting for you." It was a simple plea, but it resonated deeply with the crowd. They paused, struck by the poignant urgency in the boy's voice. A wave of emotion enveloped the scene. Listen to me, Dad, Max continued, eyes wide with determination. You told me once that we should always be brave enough to speak up even when it's hard. You said it's our job to be better. If you don't try, how will it ever change? Ethan's heart felt like it might soar. There it was, the same fire he had been trying to ignite in his father. But instead of feeling overshadowed, he felt a swell of hope. Maybe this was the spark they needed. His father's expression shifted. The weight of expectations, the fears of losing control, was it all pooling into one moment of vulnerability shared by both a father and a son? Slowly, he bent down to meet Max's gaze. "You're right," his father finally said, his voice breaking while emotions flickered across his face like the flame of a candle in a draught. "It's easy to hide behind decisions made by our past, isn't it?" Ethan leaned forward, hardly daring to breathe. It was as though the entire universe had aligned to shine light on this moment. "Dad, this is the time, not just for you, but for all of us." Maya's grip tightened around Ethan's arm, and whispers of agreement coursed through the crowd. They had seen the flicker of change in both the boy and the businessman, two people bound by familial love and the hopes of their community. Max wiped his eyes, and Ethan's father took a deep breath, drawing strength from the moment. "What do you want me to say?" "Tell them you still believe," Max replied, and there was an air of innocence and determination in his voice that brought tears to Ethan's eyes. A moment stretched, filled with possibilities. Could his father, inspired by a child's purity, finally bridge the gap between past and present? The crowd leaned in closer, breaths held tight in a mix of uncertainty and hope. Would his father reclaim his voice, or would the moment slip away, lost to the chaos? As the tension thickened, the world around them faded, and it all came down to this singular question. In that critical moment, what would his father choose to say? Ethan held his breath, locked on his father's face. The crowd felt electric, anticipation crackling in the air like a live wire. Time seemed to slow down as everyone waited for that one pivotal moment. Ethan's heart thudded rhythmically, matching the pulse of the crowd. His father's brow furrowed in contemplation, glancing at Max and then at the sea of faces yearning for hope. Here was a man with the power to change everything, caught between the weight of expectation and the softness of a child's belief. Ethan felt as if the air had thickened, each second stretching longer than the last. "Max," his father began, hesitating, the words seemingly dancing just out of reach. Ethan dared to hope. "Come on, Dad," he whispered under his breath, urging him forward. "You can do it." Then, like a spark igniting a fire, his father let out a deep breath, steadying himself. "People are afraid," he said slowly, his voice now clear and steady. "And I understand that fear." The crowd stirred, captivated by the growing certainty in his speech. "But we can't let that fear silence us. I need you to know, I still believe in our ability to change the future." Max's eyes lit up, his small frame vibrating with excitement. Ethan felt a surge of parenting pride welling up, not just for his father, but for Max too. His father continued, "I made mistakes. I've let my past dictate too much of my present, and for that, I'm sorry." He paused again, the murmurs of the crowd shimmering in the background like whispers of hope. "Listen," his father leaned forward, intensity brewing in his gaze. "I want to unite us again, not just as a family, but as a community. We've lost sight of that connection in the fog of our comforts and fears." Ethan's heart soared. This was it. This was the moment of transformation he had waited for. The crowd hung on every word, faces shifting from skepticism to dawning hope. "I won't make promises I can't keep, but I'll try. I'll listen, and together we can become a force for good." He turned to Max, the tenderness in his expression softening the edges of public vulnerability. "You're right, son. It's time we talked not just to the crowd, but with them." Ethan glanced at Maya, whose expression mirrored his own bubbling excitement. It was a release, a cathartic moment. The crowd erupted into applause, shouts of encouragement filling the air. Around them, smiles broke through the previously tense faces, a shift serving to bind them together like a familiar melody after a long silence. Max jumped up and down, pure joy radiating from his innocent face, and Ethan felt that joy crescendo within him. This wasn't just about his father's acknowledgement. It was about the community rising, a collective heartbeat returning to its rhythm. But as the excitement swelled, Ethan felt a flutter of uncertainty. Was this really enough to turn things around? In that moment of triumph, doubt rushed in alongside a lingering fear of what would come next. What changes would unfold with these new intentions? Would his father truly follow through? The applause still echoed, but deep down Ethan sensed a storm brewing. Questions rattled around in his mind. Could they sustain this momentum, or was it just a fleeting moment, a flash of hope that could easily dim? As the crowd cheered, he could almost hear the sound of ticking clock. Time keeping away from their achievements, reminding him that change doesn't come without sacrifice. Ethan pulled Max close, seeking both comfort and clarity in the moment. "What do we do now?" he asked quietly, as the warmth of hope fought against the chill of a new uncertainty. Max shrugged, his youthful smile still radiant. "We keep believing and make sure Dad follows through." But could they safeguard that belief when the world outside this bubble still felt so uncertain? With the cheers fading slowly around them and questions lingering, a new resolve formed within Ethan. The next step would be crucial, and he would protect this moment. But how? As they moved forward, uncertainty draped itself over the brightness of hope, and just like that, the journey had only just begun. In the wake of that impactful gala night, the buzz of change pulsed through the community. Ethan discovered that the path forward was not paved with smooth, easy answers, but rather with the truth of shared experiences and the determination of many voices joining as one. His friendship with Maya blossomed into a foundation of strength and understanding. They created community gatherings, bringing together diverse perspectives that reached into their neighborhoods. Together with Max's infectious enthusiasm, they started a campaign called Voices Together, where stories of struggle and resilience filled the air. Weeks turned into months. Ethan often thought back on how far he had come since the summer began. With each gathering, he felt that initial dread slip further away. It was replaced by something beyond his imagination: connection, camaraderie, and a touch of inspiration spreading like wildfire. But those feelings were put to the test one chilly afternoon during a town hall meeting. The circles filled with familiar faces, eager to express both hope and skepticism. Ethan stood before the passionate crowd, heart racing, not out of fear, but from the thrill of sharing a vision. "Change is hard," he started, his voice blending into the warm buzz of expectation. "But we're not just fighting against barriers. We're building bridges. We've all found a way to lift each other up. Who's with us?" Cheers erupted, invigorating and sonorous. The crowd clapped, but within the applause, Ethan perceived some doubts lurking. It dawned on him that true transformation required perseverance and clear intentions. The murmuring voices of dissent reminded him that he couldn't wrestle with these issues alone. And that was a truth he embraced fully. Maya stood next to him, her presence a balm amidst the whirlwind of emotion. "We're here to remind everyone that everyone matters," she added, her voice soaring. "Every story, every struggle. Together, they'll shape our future." The gathering livened, mingling snippets of hope and urgency. Moments passed where various voices rose, each story weaving itself into a broader tapestry, an undercurrent underlining the collective need to champion one another. The connection they felt ignited the largest spark of unity yet. But amid the excitement, Ethan's intuition nagged him. Would they have the momentum to sway the more traditional voices that clung to expectations of the status quo? It was a late afternoon meeting when a familiar figure stood among the crowd: his father. His father's presence sent unbidden nerves creeping into Ethan's mind. Would his dad still harbor resentment, or had their last encounter carved any change in him? As they made eye contact, Ethan read a mixture of weariness and hope reflected back at him. As the meeting carried on, Ethan felt dizzying uncertainty spinning in his heart. In a daring move, he spoke up again. "If people can question our old ways, then we can open up discussions that push us towards real progress, right?" Voices rose in agreement among the crowd. He kept searching for his father's gaze, and when their eyes met, Ethan let everything he felt soar through that connection. A moment of stunned silence echoed briefly, and then his father stood up, drawing the hum to a halt. "Ethan, your mother and I—" His voice faltered. Yet he pressed on. "If there's anything I could have done better, it's to see the need and not fear the change." Hearing him say it felt surreal. Stunned whispers ricocheted through the room, and for once, Ethan felt raw connection in his father's words. "What we face doesn't just affect us," his father continued, emotion weaving through each word. "It's about legacy. I realize now that success meant little if the community is lost." A wave of understanding washed through the room, uniting even the skeptics in an embrace of possibility. As the tension faded, Ethan felt empowered. His father wasn't asking for forgiveness. He was extending an olive branch, a desire to work together for something greater. His heart soared, but there were threads of gravity tethering them both, hope laced with the weight of unknown futures. Days transformed into weeks as voices together flourished. The community rallied behind them, garnering attention from local leaders who viewed the initiative as more than just a sentimental campaign. Ethan saw the real-world impact of their efforts. More individuals began stepping down from their pedestals, voicing genuine sentiments, sharing vulnerabilities previously buried under the weight of societal expectations. But new challenges emerged. While change blossomed in some parts of the town, others resisted. Their first significant test came when a local company attempted to strip funding from the community center that had become a pillar, providing meals and resources for families in need. Ethan felt the stakes rising again, a flame igniting in his gut. Now he knew that contending with wealth and privilege required more than emotion. It called for action. Would they stand firm together to safeguard their vision? During a rally in front of the community center, tensions coiled like spring. Local business owners and families gathered under a gray sky. When Ethan took the stage, he didn't minimize the importance of the moment. He spoke to the truths evident during their journey. He opened his heart, urging those present to see the stories behind the faces surrounding them. "We have power. Together, we can protect what we've built." Shouts of agreement rang out, healing their doubts under a chorus of voices united. Ethan's father stood at the back, watching his son grow into this leader, a smile breaking through. It radiated heart, pride, and the subtle joy of witnessing powerful change. He recognized the undeniable truth that bridges of compassion were built not only through words, but vivid actions. As a stream of energy flowed between the crowd, Ethan recognized that the journey was far from over. The sense of unity danced through the air, yet resilient challenges loomed ahead, testing their resolve. But as long as they chose to channel their collective strength, he believed, truly believed, they could still write a different chapter for their community. With those gathered by his side, the path forward pulsed with a sense of urgency. They were ready to rise, not just for themselves, but for every voice that had been silenced. In the heart of that awakening, Ethan felt a familiar warmth wrap around him, a sense of belonging in stitched-together stories, a picture of hope painted through struggle and triumph. And so, hand in hand, the community prepared to take on whatever storms brewed outside their united front. They were ready now to embrace change, instead of fearing it, knowing their shared sisterhood would illuminate the way. As wooden signs holding promises and messages began going up around the community, Ethan felt renewed. He spoke into the sunny air. One voice, one future. A vibrant call to action hung over them as they stood together, ready to make waves that echoed in every heart, their reality ignited, embracing countless tomorrows. Be a part of this journey of transformation. Don't wait. You need to subscribe now to ensure you receive the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to fuel the fire of those algorithms. Show your support. Comment your thoughts, feelings, and reactions about this journey. Your voice matters. And please, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need this spark of hope and change. Your support is not just appreciated, it is essential. Allow us to keep lifting each other higher.